We now move to our next portion of the program. The Hall of Fame began a new tradition several years ago at the family reunion dinner, welcoming back and celebrating the careers of Hall of Famers from past classes, to reminisce with returning family members, and to reflect on the lives and careers that built this institution into the world-class facility that it's become today. And tonight's special guests, as you will soon see, should take this tradition to another level. The theme for tonight's panel is a celebration of the American Basketball Association, AKA the ABA. Please join me in welcoming tonight's special guests, all of whom were major players in the ABA. Enshrined in 1987, Rick Barry. Enshrined in 1993, the Dr. Julius Erving. Also enshrined in 1993, Dan Issel. And from this year's class of 2011, the A-Train, Artis Gilmore. See what I mean? Do you think you're going to get some opinions out of this crew? My first question to you awesome individuals up here, and I want each of you to cover this. I mean, the ABA was known as being high-scoring, wild, unconventional, and I would just like you to share with the great people we have here and everybody watching on NBA.com your favorite ABA story. It's probably going to be tough to come up with one, but Dan, you first.
Well, my favorite ABA story was the only time Artis and I won an ABA championship. You know, the ABA was famous for stealing things from the NBA. We'd steal coaches, we'd steal players, we'd steal referees. But as far as Artis and I were concerned, the biggest theft that the Kentucky Colonels made was when we got an assistant coach from the Milwaukee Bucks who led us to a championship, Hubie Brown. If you want to see what our ABA championship ring looks like, I've never seen him when he didn't have it on.
Well, I guess I spent 5 years in the ABA, 2 with the Virginia Squires and 3 with the New York Nets. Most of the success came during the Nets years when we won the 74 title and the 76 title. But when that team was first assembled in 1974, I was traded from the Virginia Squires to the Nets. Rick had left the Nets and gone over to the NBA, so they wanted to fill the void.
Unfortunately.
They wanted to fill the void. Otherwise, we could have played together if you had stuck around a little bit longer. But we had a rookie who came out of New Mexico State, a guy named John Williamson, and he nicknamed himself Super John Williamson. And Brian Taylor also played with us. And John was not in the starting lineup. We started Brian Taylor and Billy Melchione. So literally we started 2 point guards. And we started the season, a lot of anticipation. This Nets team was put together. It was supposed to, be a dominant team, able to compete with the Colonels and the Indiana Pacers. We won our first game, and then we lost the next 8 games in a row. So for people who are involved as coaches or players, it's time to call a team meeting. Kevin Lockery and Rod Thorne are our coaches. We call a team meeting, or Kevin calls a team meeting, gets the players and the coaches together and says, all right, it's an open floor. Anybody have anything to say? So we went around the room, every player had something to say, and John Williamson stood up and said, the reason we lost these games is because I'm not in the starting lineup. And that just shows how brash he was as a rookie. He got put into the starting lineup. We lost the next game, and then we won 9 games in a row. So in effect, he was right. And we ended up having either first or second best record in the league that year and won the title in '74.
Well, for me, there's so many memories. They run the gamut. It depends on what category you would like to get into. As far as the craziness of the league, I will tell this one story because I couldn't even believe that it happened. We were at an all-star game, and so we're sitting around after all the festivities had taken place, and I won't mention the names of the 2 people involved, but the owner of one of the teams and the coach get into an argument and get into a fight at the all-star game. And I'm talking about a serious fight. In fact, they ripped off the jacket of the owner, ripped the sleeve off his suit jacket, and they were just going at it. We had to finally jump in and split them up and doing it. And that just shows you the kind of craziness that took place in the ABA. There were so many things. To see some of the players, too, that came in there. I remember always having a conversation with Marv Albert on his radio show. And he kept talking about and trying to put the ABA down. And I finally said to him, I said, look, Marv, you're not playing in the league. You don't understand. There may not be a lot of great basketball teams, but there are a lot of great individual players. And probably my fondest memory in trying to prove that point was when they had the 2 all-star games when the ABA played against the NBA. And they were great basketball games and very, very competitive. And I think it proved to the world that there were a lot of great individual players who could play as a team. And that was probably the most rewarding aspect of it, that they were able to prove their validity. And obviously, the 4 teams that wind up joining the league have shown that they are certainly deserving of having been a part of the great NBA heritage. So it was really interesting for me to be a part of all of that with so many other stories that I could tell.
Artis, how about you?
Well, the one story I remember is when the NBA and the ABA was on the verge of merger, and the last All-Star game that we had, they hosted in Denver. In fact, Denver Nuggets intact, the team intact, competed against the All-Stars of the West. And of course, they created the slam dunk contest, and they needed an additional player in slam dunk contest to start, which was me. And so I was just an added person, and I happened to be the first guy to go in this slam dunk contest. But of course, Julius Erving ended up winning it. But that was a memorable occasion because I remember they start demonstrating, listen, you need to go to this spot, you need to do something from this location. And then they indicated you need to go to another location. So being the first person in the original slam dunk contest was somewhat of an extraordinary memory for me.
Tell them who the other guys were.
The Iceman.
Yeah.
Man,
David Thompson.
David Thompson.
And in fact, they was,
Larry
David
Keenan.
Thompson was the favorite. They was anticipating that he was going to win it.
Hometown favorite.
Yeah.
Larry
hometown.
Keenan.
Larry Keenan. And who was the other? That was it. Yeah.
For a dunk contest, it doesn't really get much better than that, does it, Doc?
It was pretty good. It was pretty good. Long time ago. I mean, first of all, I'm glad that it's an honor to be back here at the Hall of Fame, as an existing member. I don't come back every year. Artists asked me to come back and present them this year, and I gladly accepted. There were some other guys who have asked, and I've always tried to do it. And the fact that the ABA is getting recognized in this forum, I just take my hat off to NBA TV and to the NBA for allowing that to happen. Those of us who played in the ABA year, whether it was 1 or 2 years or 5 years, and Dan, you played 6 years out of the 9 years. This was a very, very important part of our life. It's part of the foundation of our professional basketball careers, and I'm just glad that it hasn't been forgotten.
I want to say something for you people who don't understand about this man right here. I am so delighted that he is finally into the Basketball Hall of Fame. It is a long overdue honor. And I have to be careful what I say because my wife said, honey, I love you for your honesty, but you're brutally honest, and you just have to get the brutality out of your honesty and try to put the filter on tonight, and what comes into your mind doesn't necessarily have to come out of your mouth. So I'm trying to edit as I'm thinking. But anyway, this man, I tell you, I have never, ever in my life, when he first came into the league, most of you probably remember him with the Bulls. And he was a big guy, kind of like he is right now. Well, when he first came into the league, he was kind of svelte, and he was extremely mobile. I have never in my life seen guys blocking jump shots from the corner. I mean, I'm telling you, guys were shooting jumpers from the corner, and he is blocking them. I was saying, are you kidding me? What is this guy doing? And unfortunately for him, the officials had never seen it either, and so they're calling goaltending all the time because he can't possibly be blocking these shots legitimately, and he really was. And I really think because of all the goaltending calls that were made against him, he stopped doing it, but it was truly one of the most remarkable things I've ever seen from a big man. He was unbelievable.
I want to second that. When I heard earlier this year that A was being inducted into the Hall of Fame, I said, that's got to be a mistake. Artis is already in the Hall of Fame. And even though during the games for 4 years we played next to each other, those 4 years in practice, I was the second string center because I was the only one who even came close to matching up with him size-wise. And I can assure everybody, this man should have been in the Hall of Fame a long, long time ago.
Guys, thank you for what a tremendous compliment. Thank you.
As I said earlier in the program here, 17 rebounds per game in his ABA career. Are you kidding me?
Let me
It's
tell you.
absolutely outstanding.
We were playing the Indiana Pacers for the ABA championship. And in 1975, we win the first 2 games in Louisville. We go to Indianapolis, we win the 3rd game. In fact, I remember George McGinnis, another great ABA player, was standing next to me on the free throw line late in the game, and we had been favorites to win the championship a couple years prior to that. And he said, well, it looks like it's finally your year, so we're getting ready for game number 4. And right before tip-off, our general manager, David Vance, sides up to Artis and says, wouldn't it be nice if we won this championship back home in front of our crowd? And Artis takes the night off. He is awful. And we lose. And we go home for game number 5, 28 points and 33 rebounds.
Are you kidding me? 33 rebounds? You doubled up your ABA average in closing out that championship.
I think Dan is sort of exaggerating here. I don't remember.
I hope he's exaggerating about taking the night off.
Rick, I want to. I'm sorry, Doc.
No, I would say he doesn't have to remember that. You know, I mean, it's a fan's thing, and plus the stats speak for themselves.
And the championship ring speaks for itself as well. Now, Rick, you spent 2 years in the NBA and then joined the ABA and then went back to the NBA. Talk about your thoughts when you were leaving the NBA to join the ABA and the Oakland Oaks. Did you think you were going to dominate? Were you fearful of some of the talent in the ABA? And then talk about your thoughts when you went from the ABA back to the NBA.
Well, it had absolutely nothing to do with thinking about what was going over there. It had nothing to really do about money. I could have probably gotten more money from the Warriors. It just had to do because the game of basketball has always been fun for me. I love the game. I have a great passion for the game. I still love it. I hate to see some of the things that are happening right now. Hopefully crazy players will come to their senses and make a deal with the NBA. But I really think that I left because I didn't have fun that year. I mean, we almost won the championship. 2 plays go our way instead of the way of the 76ers. We win in 6 games instead of the 76ers, one of the greatest teams of all time, picked by so many of the writers. And I had a chance to go and play for my then father-in-law, who I loved like a second father, who helped me so much with my game to get me developed. I mean, one of the reasons I came into the NBA and had such an impact was that I had 4 years of training in the minor leagues, basically. He was a former great pro player. I played up-tempo basketball. Without the three-point shot in college, we averaged 98 points a game in college, without the three-point shot. I a couple of guys, and I had two guards who, when they crossed half court, they thought they were in range. And it was pretty remarkable. And to have that opportunity to go and reunite with him after winning the championship and getting the MVP of the All-Star game and being an All-Pro player, I didn't have fun. I mean, I said, man, the game has got to be, fun for me. I don't want to have it like it's a job. And unfortunately, it was like a job for me that time. We hardly got days off, and I just didn't have a good time. And so that was the reason why I left. But however, I wasn't going to leave because the Warriors screwed up, and I got to get this out because everybody has such a misconception about this, and I was branded some money-hungry, backstabbing, no sense of value guy. I've always honored every contract. I told the Warriors, give me your best offer. And I told Pat Boone, who was one of the owners at the time, if the Warriors come close to matching what you're offering me, I'm staying. And the Warriors didn't even come close to it. And so they gave me the opportunity to do what my heart wanted to do, but I wouldn't have done it had they given me the offer that they told the press that they had given me the first time. So it was very difficult for me to leave. I actually had tears in my eyes when I left the office because Frank Lemuley was a wonderful man. God rest his soul. He passed away not too long ago. And so it was hard for me to have to leave a great league and go to this unknown stuff. And believe me, some of the things that happened in the ABA were unbelievable. It took great pride to be able to play sometimes. There were more people on the benches and at the scorer's table in Houston in one game than there were in the stands. And that takes great pride to go out and give your best effort all the time, but that's the way I was brought up. And then having the opportunity to go back again, I didn't want to keep moving back and forth and doing things, but I had to honor a contract that I had. So I honored the contract, went back to the Warriors, and in life, everything happens for a reason. So I got back there and had the good fortune of experiencing a championship in 1974-75, which today is my fondest memory. This is the ring I wear. I still wear it very proudly. I have a Hall of Fame ring. I have a top 50 ring. I never wear them because they're meaningless. Sure, it's a nice award to have and everything, but you don't play the game for those awards. You play for this. And I kind of equate it to having if you have a plate and you had candles and icing and all of the stuff that goes on a cake, and you put it on a plate without the cake, it doesn't really look very good. So all those individual awards are meaningless if you don't have the cake. So I was lucky enough to get the cake in '75 and proud to have been back with the NBA.
In one of the great upsets in NBA history.
The greatest upset in NBA history.
There you have it. Unfortunately, we're running out of time here, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask Doc and the A-Train this question. I know a lot of you are wondering this. When you think about the ABA, you think about the red, white, and blue ball. You think about the up-tempo, and you think about the afros. And Doc and Artis, who had the best afro in the ABA?
Yeah, I think the consensus is that Darnell Hillman.
Darnell, yeah.
Okay.
It's Darnell.
The original Dr. Duncan Stein.
I love it.
And he taught us how to groom our afros. I mean, he traveled around with the cake cutter. Y'all know the women all know what a cake cutter is, right? Y'all know what a cake cutter is? Huh? It's like it became an afro pick, but it used to be originally a cake slicer. And he carried that around with the blow dryer and do the whole routine. And when you stepped out, you're looking good.
Rick, one quick thing I have to say. You talk about the greatest memories. That one of the greatest years of my life in basketball was getting the honor of playing for this man right here, Lou Carnesecca, who I love dearly. He was just unbelievable. I had one of the greatest years and career times of my life being with Lou Carnesecca with the Nets.
Well said, and well said by these great ABA legends. Ladies and gentlemen, stand on your feet and acknowledge these great players and these Hall of Famers and these ABA greats. Artis Gilmore, Rick Barry, Julius Erving, and Dan Issel. And with that, we close out the family reunion dinner here at the Basketball Hall of Fame. Thank you to all of you here in attendance. Thanks to everybody watching on NBA.com. It's going to be a great enshrinement weekend here in Springfield. It's just getting started. Stay tuned, everybody.